Mojang didn't just mention it once offhandedly, they dropped it twice on 2 separate occasions. On both of these official Minecraft pages, they describe the creaking heart as a living block. And this is further confirmed by what happens when you break the heart. Not only do you get XP, you get Monster Hunter. Not by killing the creaking, by breaking the heart. The heart is the monster here. But that realization still doesn't give us the full story. It doesn't tell us how this thing came to be and what its secret actually is. For that, we have to turn our attention to resin. Resin is one of the new blocks that came out in this update, but more importantly, it's also what you get when you break the creaking heart. In fact, we can confirm the heart is made out of this stuff because that's exactly how you craft it. 2 logs and a block of resin. And I'll get to why this is so important in a second, but this isn't actually the only way that resin appears in the wild. When you hit a creaking connected to a heart, the heart secretes some resin onto the blocks around it, just like damaging a real-life tree. That's a neat detail, but now we're stuck in a sort of chicken and egg situation. We know you can make a creaking heart by crafting it out of resin, but you can only get resin by breaking or using a creaking heart. And if you want to find out what the heart is hiding, we have to know which of the 2 came first. But luckily we don't have to theorize because it's literally spelled out for us. One of these 2 blocks can be found somewhere else, and it all comes back to the Illagers. In most theories you'll find about Minecraft lore, the Illagers are usually either the villains or play some equally important role, and this time is no different, because guess what you can find naturally generating in the chests of the Illager woodland mansions? Resin. This detail outright confirms that the Illagers and Creaking Heart have some kind of history together. But okay, you may be saying it doesn't necessarily prove anything interesting. Maybe the Illagers just went on expeditions into the Pale Garden, collected some resin from the heart, and put it in their chests, and that's why it's there. No more, no less. And if this was the only connection between the 2, then yeah, I'd say that makes sense. But it isn't. Resin isn't the only thing that ties Illagers to the Creaking. Notice what happens when you spawn a Creaking next to a bunch of Illagers. They run away in fear. Even the Johnny Illager, the mob literally coded to be violent against everything, has conflicting feelings about the Creaking. Few other mobs in the game have this sort of aggro or fear response, but when they do, it's almost always significant to the lore. Endermen attack Endermites because they're the parasites that corrupted them, and Piglins run away from the soul stuff because it triggers some PTSD from Steve. That's to say, whenever you see a mob running away from another one, it's almost always lore related, and this time is no different. It'd be one thing if the Creaking attacked these guys, and then it would make sense to run away, just like villagers running away from the violent Illagers. But the Creaking doesn't attack the Illagers. It literally couldn't care less about them, yet for some reason they're still terrified of it. And the connections between the 2 don't end there. We can read on the wiki that the Pale Garden is a derivative of the Dark Oak Forest, the biome where, as you know, Illagers live. And this makes perfect sense when you look at the trees. They're near identical in shape, except there's one important difference between the biomes. Illager woodland mansions do generate in Dark Oak Forests, but don't generate in the Pale Garden. The Illagers clearly have some history with this biome and the Creaking, but want no part in it whatsoever. And now all the puzzle pieces are finally coming together, and we're super close to finding out the secret of the Creaking that Mojang is keeping hidden, the mysterious connection between the Illagers and the Creaking Heart. All we need is one more puzzle piece, and for that we have to go back to where we started this whole thing. Sculk. Sculk and resin are weirdly very similar. The Sculk Catalyst is a block that, as we established, uses the life force of the dead mobs around it to grow Sculk and protect itself with a warden. The Creaking Heart, on the other hand, also has a very similar functionality. It uses the life force of things around it to grow resin and protect itself with the Creaking. But wait, okay, how do we know the heart actually uses the life force of other things? Well, for that, we can take a look at the formation of resin a little bit more closely. I mentioned earlier that when you damaged a Creaking, its heart would produce resin, but this isn't the full story. If the Creaking is in lava or gets hit by a warden, resin won't form. The only way that the resin is actually produced is if the Creaking gets hit by a player's dog, or a player's explosion, aka resin is only formed when the Creaking is hit by something with a player's soul. But if that